Alright, welcome back everybody. My name is Chris and this is my channel Barn on 11970. I wanted to start this a little early because this way when I got things on my mind I want to make sure I don't take too much time and forget some of the topics I want to talk about. And not many people may actually click on this video because of the title, and that's okay. This is geared towards people who feel the resonation of a video no matter what and just want to check it out, and this will be, at least I hope, to be very inspirational. And as usual, it might be long, so if you have a half hour to an hour to kill, I would recommend sticking around because it will help you in some way, shape, or form, and that's probably why you're here. So basically, I want to try and first give a little background of where I've been for the past almost 8 months. Because my life has completely done a 180 since you guys saw me do videos months ago. At that time, I was living in New York, and I was basically losing everything. Didn't have savings, lost all my jobs, wasn't going anywhere. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. I was basically, for the past year and a half, starting 8 months ago, I was basically just surviving, not living. And I'm sure people can tell on my other channel, because I also have a We Love Comics channel. Okay, so I had to somehow come up with a way to find a new home. And I realized I didn't want to live in New York anymore. It just wasn't going in the direction I wanted. Now, this is back in February of last year, 2019. And we didn't know where to go. We didn't have the finances to move anywhere. And I had to come up with something quickly. Well, I had to sell some of my comic book collection. And I was able to not only buy a house, but just searching for a location. Didn't know where we were going to go. Looked all over the place. Finally we end up in Florida. Now, I've been collecting comics since I was a kid. My comics got stolen years ago. Started collecting again back in 2015. Now, there's a reason why I'm talking about this. Because what I want to share with people is sometimes the most insignificant things that you've done or are doing could turn into life-changing scenarios. And even with this whole pandemic of what's going on in this world, I've been out of work now for about 3 months and continuing with no end in sight. I'm an independent contractor. I sell my comic books for a living, so if anybody's interested, I have the link you could check in the description or in the live stream. I also make and sell my Orgone pyramids, which, by the way, now in Florida I can do all year round, so if you're interested, you could check that out. And the purpose of this video is to show that sometimes your world can change when you don't expect it. Because when I was a kid, I used to collect comics like most people. I collect them because they were fun. Then it turned into an investment years later, and it ended up ultimately bringing me my home and relocating to here in Florida. And I want to get people to know that the choices that you make may not seem significant at the time. Because trust me, when I was younger and collected comics, there were plenty of people that didn't understand it, that made fun of it. I remember when I was dating at the time, girls would be like, "You collect comic books?" Like it's some kind of childish thing. And if I would have let others influence what I decided to do, who knows where my life could be right now. Because like I said, the comics that I sold got me my new home for me and my wife. So if I would have listened to other people who say, "Oh, you can't do something," or "You shouldn't do something," or "I can't believe you're doing something," or "I'm making fun of you for doing something," or believing in something, your whole world can change, and not always necessarily for the better. And yes, I still have my gold and silver. I have not... I sold a couple of... I had 4 palladium bars that I sold because, again, I had to find a house. But I still have all my gold and silver. I still believe in it. So that's all live and well. But even with this situation that's going on, I've been out of work for 3 months, and like I said, and continuing. Me being an independent contractor, because I started my own flea market comic book store in Pinellas Park, a place called the Wagon Wheel Flea Market, which is still closed to this day. And started getting into, believe it or not, selling a lot of stickers as well. That's actually one of my #1 sellers as far as quantity is concerned, or at least it was. And that was something that there was a booth across from me, and this probably 20-year-old kid who actually didn't have the motivation and didn't want to do it, was selling his business. He was actually doing well selling these stickers. I never thought of anything like that. And one day I just asked him, I hear you're leaving and you're not going to be doing this anymore. How much to buy your business? And he said, $100, it's yours. And at the time, I mean, my booth was all about comics. I even sold some other things, nothing major. But it ended up, buying those stickers ended up increasing my business because it got a younger generation to come to my booth, and people were buying lots of them. And it actually started establishing my business. But everything's still closed at this point, and there is no end in sight. As far as government assistance, I got, like most people, got that $1,200 check a couple of months ago. But I haven't gotten anything since, because I moved from New York to Florida, and I was an independent contractor. I technically am not employed, so every time I tried to ask for the assistance, they denied it, which I'm perfectly fine, because this is what I want people to take away from this video, because this is not about just me telling a story. It's a story with a purpose, because I know a lot of people out there are suffering and going through a lot. And as you could see, there's a thing that YouTube loves to do this. It only happens when I talk about inspirational videos, where it wants to reset. So if I hit the OK button, it will shut off the whole live chat. So that's why I'm not touching it. You know what? To make it easier, I'm going to just put the image so you can see. Now, the reason that I want to talk about some what could be the insignificant things in your life is when I was a kid, I wasn't collecting comics to become wealthy or use them to help my financial situations. Obviously, I'm not wealthy. Not yet. I'm working on it. But I did it for the fun of it. I did it because I loved it. And despite how many people made fun of it or didn't agree with it or whatever, I continued to do it because it was what I chose. And ultimately, in the future, it helped me out. Same situation, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know, back in 2001, my house was robbed. And it was my ex-fiance that did it. Ultimately, I found out, but I didn't do anything because at that point, it was too late when I heard about it. But they stole a lot of my comics. They stole a lot of my merchandise, which could seem like a very bad thing, and it was at the time. But about a year and a half afterwards, I got my insurance check. And my parents and family and friends were saying, oh, you know, you got your little house that you bought. Why don't you use that money to invest in the house and, you know, modernize it or add to it or whatever. And I ultimately ended up buying a karaoke system, a little system at the time. And I did it because it was something I wanted to try, because at the time I was working for somebody as a karaoke DJ, which, by the way, only happened because I used to go to karaoke, and one day the person that was the karaoke DJ asked me if I wanted to work for her. And after a year, I'm like, why am I making money for somebody else? And when the opportunity arose and the money that I got, I ended up buying the karaoke business, which ended up saving my life, because this is right around after September 11th, 2001, when I first opened my massage business, because I was also a licensed massage therapist. And my business has almost failed, but it was the DJ business that actually kept me alive. So even with this situation right now, because of the fact over the years, and if you've been watching my channel, I've been telling people to prepare for things, because you never know what kind of event. It doesn't have to be an end-of-the-world cataclysmic event. Sometimes it could be just a power outage. But if you're prepared for things, you don't have to worry. Well, during this whole situation, even though I've been out of work for 3 months, and even though I didn't get any of the government assistance, nor do I do not qualify for, and I mean, I definitely could use it. It's not like I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything. But I was still able to survive. And because of the fact that I was buying things and storing them up, we did not need anything throughout this whole entire time. Now, the little things in your life end up helping you in ways that you can never see at the moment. And never base things on what other people say, or how other people feel, or whatever other people do. There are 2 ways you can learn in life: through wisdom or through knowledge. Wisdom is learning through your own personal experience. Knowledge is basically memorizing what somebody else told you. For example, you can have somebody teach you about the Grand Canyon and how big it is, how wide it is, the rivers that may flow through it, what caused it, that it's one of the bigger vacation spots in the United States. All these things. You could learn that. So you'll get knowledge, and you'll learn a lot about everything that somebody else is going to teach you. Wisdom is actually going there, seeing the view, smelling the smells, hearing the sounds, looking at the animals, seeing how deep the hole really is and how spacious it is. And most of the world is being taught, and you're not experiencing life. And your life can be whatever you want it to be. So you can get plenty of knowledge. You could be a person with fancy certificates that say, this person has memorized all the stuff that we taught, and we're giving them a certificate with a nice gold star on it to show how smart they are. And there are a lot of people in this world that are smart in that aspect. But how many people have true wisdom? And wisdom comes through experience, good and bad. And that's how, despite all of my trials and tribulations throughout my life, it's like any kind of test. If you don't prepare for a test, you're most likely going to fail. But like any test, you choose whether you wish to study or not. And that goes for what you learn in life. You can choose to ignore it. You can choose to feel sorry for it. You can choose to have others teach you and fight for you. But that's like somebody else taking your test for you. You may pass, you may graduate, but what did you learn? What did you experience? And the little significant things that you do in life may seem significant at the time. Everybody may seem it's a big deal, or you're crazy or whatever, but who knows what that could bring in your future or your present. But you have to experience life if you want to truly know what life is all about, not what somebody else is telling you. And that's why, even though I've been out of work for 3 months now, and I don't see any of my jobs opening any time soon, and my savings has been depleted at this point, I'm okay. Because of the fact that I know, and this is how I looked at this situation through my own personal experiences of what I've had to go through, that this will probably be the worst financial situation I will ever be in. I mean, the chances of a country shutting down for months, where you're not allowed to go to work anymore, and even when things open up, and I don't see if anything of that I am involved with opening up anytime too soon yet, I still was able to survive and get through. Which means that once things get closer to a quote-unquote normal state, that I'll be able to get back to where I was. So yes, I will have to start my business all over again. And yes, my karaoke DJ business is going to suffer for a while. Now, I can be sad about it, I can be angry about it, I could give up, or I can take the lemons that the world has handed me and make lemonade out of them and enjoy taking the sip. So in the meantime, I've been selling a few of my comics. Which, by the way, if anybody's interested, check out the links. I sell a lot of key comics, not just generic stuff that I want to get rid of. So, yes, comic collecting may seem like a ridiculous thing. And as a matter of fact, another thing that's helped me throughout all these situations is my other YouTube channel. It's called We Love Comics. And since 2015, I've been making videos off and on. And that channel helped me advertise some of my comic books, and people bought them, and I was able to buy my home and be able to survive all of this because I had a savings, and that's now gone, but that doesn't mean it's not going to disappear forever, and I cannot refill it. You know, you fill a glass with water, when you drink it, eventually it goes away, but that doesn't mean you cannot refill it unless you choose not to. So I want people to, what I like to call, understand that whatever you do in life, don't take it for granted or don't think it's not a big deal, because every little thing you do puts you on a path that leads you somewhere. You got to think of it like a staircase. If you want to get to the top, you have to get there one step at a time. So life is a process. It's an ever-changing process. And you could spend your whole life having other people tell you how to live. So you'll get plenty of knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you or healthy for you or even right or right for you. Or you can start taking the chance of experiencing life yourself. Because you know what? Somebody can tell you how amazing ice cream is, and you can learn everything about ice cream, but you'll never truly know until you experience it. And you can even find out you don't like it. But at least you know then that you tried it, you didn't like it, and you could move on and you never have to think about it again. So don't let your life keep slipping away. And appreciate everything that you do if your heart is into it, regardless of what anybody else does or says. And this world is trying to teach you that if you don't fall in line, if you don't do what everybody else does, there's something wrong with you. And many people choose to believe that. But like any belief, you can change a belief system. You just have to want to. And it is that easy. That the simplest thing in life is knowing that you can change direction at any given moment. You are never stuck unless you choose to be. And if you choose to be stuck, instead of sitting there wondering what to do, figure a way to get out, or think of, why am I stuck? What is keeping me here? What can I learn from the experience that's preventing me to move forward? And if you experience that, you may learn something that can allow you to get to the next level. You can't walk out of a room if a door is closed and you refuse to open it. Praying, hoping, thinking, whatever is not going to open that door for you. Now, you could cry out and hope somebody's on the other side and open the door for you. But if you want to spend your whole life waiting for somebody else, sometimes that somebody else may not come. And you'll spend your whole life waiting. So whatever you are doing, as long as you feel it in your heart is the right way to go, even if it's that for that moment, don't worry what everybody else says. Don't worry what everybody else does. And that's the biggest thing I had to learn at this channel, because if you have been a subscriber of mine or a viewer of mine for the past 6-7 years, back in the days when I first started, when I originally shut down my first channel, I let people get to me. I let them influence me. And I could look back and say, woe is me, or man, was I stupid, or blah, blah, blah. Or I could say, you know what? It was there to present itself so I can learn something. And until you learn something, it will keep presenting itself and get harder and harder until the hello McFly moment finally hits. Because better late than never. And that's why I always tell people, base things not on what you think, because your thoughts will betray you. Your thoughts, how many times have you sat there alone and all of a sudden you got depressed out of nowhere because you started thinking about things that aren't beneficial to you? Don't put your head into something, put your heart into something. So if your heart is into something, even if everybody else says it's crazy, it's stupid, no one else would do it, no one has ever done it, be the first. Or be the only one that's happy with it. One of the things I love about some of the comics that I collected, because I have some coverless books that many people would not touch. Well, the beauty about something that somebody else doesn't want is it makes it easier for me to get, and with less competition becomes less price that I have to pay. So it's okay to have somebody tell you something. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's your choice to believe in it or change it or research it just to verify if the person was even accurate. Not everybody lies. Sometimes people make honest mistakes and get things wrong because maybe they didn't research. Maybe they didn't dig deeper. So you can always change your life unless you say you can't. Because if you say you're stuck, you're creating that reality of where that it becomes your truth. That's how powerful you are. So if you truly believe in your heart that you are stuck, ask yourself, why are you stuck? What can you learn from being stuck? And will you move forward once you learn? Because like going to school, if you cannot learn that 2 + 2 is 4, you will keep repeating that class until you get it right. There's only so many ways that you can be taught that 2 + 2 is 4. If you're not willing to listen, if you're not willing to learn, you will not progress. So if your life is holding you back, instead of what everybody tells you is, oh, it's not your fault, or let somebody else do it, or woe is me, or pray to God, sit there and say, what is it that I'm not learning that keeps repeating itself? You ever notice the same patterns happen over and over again? It's because you're not learning. If you don't learn 2 + 2 is 4, you're going to have to keep being taught it. And it would be silly once you know it to continue to be taught it. And that's the thing. That's the irony of people that truly believe they are stuck. Because they don't transition and they don't move on and they don't learn from it, they continue to be the very thing they don't want to be. Because once you learn why you're stuck, once you learn how to get unstuck, you're no longer stuck. So you're no longer in that position. And it's a way to change your mindset. So I had every right, and most people would have agreed with my situation. Again, I had my DJ business, which closed down. So I lost all my DJ business because I have my own karaoke DJ system. And I was starting a new career here in Florida where I opened up a comic book little flea market store. And I started selling stickers and stuff and starting to do really well. But that got shut down and they have not even had a projected opening date yet. And because I moved from New York to Florida and did not get a job in the sense of an employer hired me and I was an independent contractor, I earned no income in Florida. So when I tried to get government assistance, I was denied. And I've tried 4 times. I only got the one-time $1,200 check, and that's the only income I've really had. But I did manage to sell some comics. Things that I had since I was a little kid and started getting back into back in 2015, which some people thought was crazy. Some people thought was stupid. Some people thought was a waste of money. And yet it didn't matter what anybody else thought because I knew why I did it, and it helped me. And when I was telling people years ago to store up on food and water and supplies and things like that, you know how many days I had to wait in line while everybody else is waiting hours at a time for a thing of toilet paper? None. So I could have easily and justifiably so have said, woe is me during the situation. My savings account is now dry. My credit cards were maxed out. I was getting no income or no government assistance while everybody around me in this area is getting that extra $600 a week. So I could have easily felt sorry for myself. I could have cried here, and many people could have said, oh, Chris, we feel sorry for you. We feel bad. It's okay. It's justified, But I didn't do that. I took a better route. In other words, instead of doing what I might have done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, and kept the circle going, I woke up and decided, you know what? This is probably the best thing in my life, because the worst part of my life happened to me financially, and yet I still survived. I did not go a day not wanting something and not having it. I didn't worry about toilet paper. I didn't worry about where my next meal is going to be, because I already had it. Because I prepared, even when people thought I was crazy or paranoid or crazy conspiracy theorist. Because I didn't listen to other people. I did in the beginning. But you can change your life. You have to focus in on it. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and see yourself for who you truly are. Not what you wish to be or whatever anyone thinks you are. You are whatever you want to be. Good, bad, and different. You could be the person sitting at the beach watching somebody drown and take a picture. You could be a person that will walk away. You'll be a person that will do nothing. Or you could be the person that gets in and tries to save the person and either drowns or saves them. Or doesn't save them. It's up to you what you want to be. Nobody can force you into that water to save them. And no one can stop you from trying to save them. So save yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. If you have things that are continually repeating in your life, say to yourself, what is it? Can I learn from it? Why am I ignoring it? It does not go away. As long as you're in school, you might as well learn. But if you want your life to be even better, you have to experience. So it's okay to get some knowledge, because it's good to know how to count and how to speak and how to communicate. So you can get good things even out of a public system. But it's your choice to continue through that public system and let that be the basis of your entire life and have other people dictate what you do, even if it sounds right. Or you can use that knowledge that you got and use it towards wisdom. Because it's good to know that a scorpion may sting you. So when you see one, you may want to stay away from it. So you can get knowledge and it be okay. But if you have nothing but knowledge, you'll never experience life. And if you're not experiencing life, whose fault is that? So when I was a kid, and I started collecting comics, I never knew where it was going. I didn't think that way. I just collected them because I loved them. And when I got back into it in 2015, I did it again because I loved it. And I don't care what I collect is something that no one else would ever touch. And it's because I did the things that I've done when other people said I shouldn't or I couldn't or it was silly. I didn't listen. Am I a multimillionaire living in some beach house, living happily ever after? Well, not yet. I'd like to say I will get there someday. But I'm also not out on the street wondering where my next meal is going to be. So your life can be whatever you want it to be, including nothing. Because like I did with the analogy about the amusement park, the world is an amusement park waiting for you to create it. You could be a person that rides every ride. You could love them. You can hate them. You could be a person that sits at the bench and watches everybody else. That's a choice, but it doesn't sound like a fun one. Unless you have fun watching other people have fun. Don't let anyone else dictate what is right for you. And don't spend your life trying to convince everybody what you're doing is right. Because just because you enjoy the roller coaster doesn't mean the person next to you will. People in this world with all these YouTube videos and all these Instagram photos and all the selfies and everything, people are basically trying to convince others that what they're doing is right. And it may be, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. So don't be jealous about somebody that succeeds because you're only seeing a part of their lifestyle. How do you know what their life is truly like other than what they're showing you? And if they're spending their whole life trying to show you, hey, look at me, look at this good thing that's happening, well, are they really as well off as you think if they're trying to convince you how well off they are? Because you can have all the money in the world, doesn't buy you happiness. It could rent it for a while. But if you have a black hole in your heart and you try and fill it with material things, like any black hole, you'll notice you'll spend a lifetime and lifetimes and forever filling it because it will never fill. So if you're jealous about somebody else, think about their situation. You think their life is perfect? If their life is so perfect, why are they trying to convince you how perfect it is? It's like a person coming up to you and telling you how secure they are. There was a girl I used to know. She's a friend of mine. I won't say her name. But when we all used to hang out, she would say all the time how pretty she is and how confident she is. And she'd say it all the time. Well, who was she trying to convince? Us or herself? Because a truly confident person doesn't have to tell you they're confident. They just are. So the next time you watch somebody's video and you think they got it all because they got the nice fancy cars and they're getting all the girls or all the guys and they have thousands of friends and they're bragging about it, do you really think their life is that happy? Because they're trying to convince others how happy they are? They're not trying to convince others, they're trying to convince themselves. Hey, look at me, I got the nice fancy car, so I must be doing well. Hey, look at me, I got the nice big bank account, I must be doing well. Well, if you're trying to convince people by showing it off, you're trying to convince yourself. Because the sad part is, if you have all the money, if you have all the material things, if you have all the friends, if you have all the relationships you want, and you're still not happy, where do you go from there? And I want to thank Brother John. That was nice of him to do a super chat. He says, I am an I/she as well. If you want to describe what IC is so other people know about it, please do. He says, good thing I saved and prepared over the years. Failure to prepare prepares you for failure. Stay positive, you create your reality. Well said. You are not stuck. You may believe you're stuck, but you can believe the sky is purple. You could believe the sky isn't there. Just because you have a belief in something doesn't mean it can't change. If you truly believe in your beliefs, they become truth. That's why two things can happen simultaneously. They're the opposites and both be true. And that's why I use that roller coaster analogy. That two opposite things can happen at the same time and both be true. Oh, okay, independent contractor. So IC meant independent contractor. So if you have two people on a roller coaster sitting next to each other, they're experiencing the same exact ride. They're going up at the same time, they're going down at the same time, they're twists and turns. They're experiencing the same thing. But one could love it, and one could absolutely be terrified and hating it. They're both right. So your reality is right because you base it on your own personal truth. Now here's the thing. A person that hates a roller coaster can learn to love it. And a person that loves a roller coaster, if you went on it 900 times in a row, I promise you, you won't love it as much as you did the first few times. So things can always change, you just have to allow them to. Or not. Because if you spend your life on the same roller coaster for the rest of your life, just imagine you pick one roller coaster and you cannot get off that roller coaster. It might have been the most exciting, fun time you've ever had in your life. You think it's going to be that way 10 years later? You're probably going to get nauseous. You're probably going to get headaches. You're going to be bored. Because you think your life is that roller coaster. You can get off. You can go on another ride. You can go to another park. You could choose to never go again. It's whatever you want. The person that's on that roller coaster saying they're stuck, well, they're not going to do anything to get off, are they? So they make it true. So yes, they are stuck, only not because they're stuck. It's because they believe they are. So change the point of view. If you think you're stuck, ask yourself why. What are you doing to get out of it? If you're drowning and you don't try and swim, even if you don't know how, you're increasing the chances of going under. Cactus says, not scary at all. We all know they won't. We all know they won't fail. Well, it's okay to fail. There are people who fail, but sometimes you can learn more through your failures than you ever can through your success. So don't see failure as a negative thing. You know, you ever try and get a girl or a guy that you wanted to date because you thought you fell in love with them and they were the one for you and you didn't get them? You failed. Well, what happens if you find out 20 years later they were in prison, or they murdered somebody, or they ended up not being as attractive as you thought, or they ended up being abusive, and you sit that back and say, wow, am I glad I didn't go through that relationship and never got that person? It's okay to fail, but learn something from it. If there are 2 doors out of a room, and one of them you can never open, well, if you try that door and you can't open it, you've failed. Well, if you do nothing after that, you never leave the room. But if you use failure as a learning tool, you could say, okay, there are 2 doors. One will not let me out. So now I've found which door will not let me out. So now I'm going to use the other door. So did that failure become failure forever? No, it was just you failed at that moment. Most people will sit there and cry and say, I failed. Some people will try and open that door again and hope and wish and close their eyes and say, all I have to do is dream about that door opening and it will open. And then you try and open it, it doesn't open. It's okay to fail. But if you want to get a better life, you have to progress from that failure, learn from that failure, and never do that dumb thing again. You ever hear the old joke that says, you know, when I move my wrist, it hurts, and the doctor says, well, don't move your wrist? The point is, it's okay to fail, because you can learn what not to do. People are always afraid of the negative part because negative sounds bad. Well, it can be, but you can learn from it. If you burn your finger on the stove, it doesn't matter when you're a kid how many times your parents tell you don't touch the stove. Sometimes you have to actually touch it and burn yourself to learn, boy, that was stupid, I'll never do that again. Because if you sat there and put your hand on that stove and kept it there, you're going to damage yourself a lot. So the idea is sometimes you have to limit the amount of damage you do from your own choice of failure. And Brother John says, I have not failed, I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Exactly. You ever take the wrong road? Even with GPS? Ever take you to the wrong destination even though you programmed it in and it was telling you where to go? Did you sit there and say, woe is me, and you're now stuck because you ended up in the wrong place? No, you don't think about it. You just turn around and find another way. Or maybe you call and ask for directions, or you stop and ask for directions, or you reprogram the GPS. There's always a way. So my whole point of this video is to show people that through your insignificant, or what seems to be insignificant experiences in your life that you did based on your heart and your passion and your love, it may not do anything for you right now. It may not do anything for you tomorrow. It may not do anything for you ever. I'm not going to sit here and say there's always a 100% guarantee. But you never know what you do in your life, where it will take you. Good, bad, or indifferent. There are always consequences to everything that you do because the world is a reflection of you. So whatever you're experiencing is the world showing you what's inside you. So change it. Or not. It's your choice. So I want to thank you guys and girls for listening. I know there are not a lot of people. I have 47,000 subscribers. Which, by the way, I've been getting a lot of subscribers in the 8 months I haven't made videos. I made 2 videos. I lost 40 subscribers. Go figure. And it's YouTube. They blocked my channel. Like, my videos... my last video, I got about 400 views the first day. After that, it's gotten up to like 600. That's out of 47,000 subscribers. So YouTube is going to block this. But as you can see, with the very few people that are here, it still will get through to those resonating with it. So I don't care that I'm not going to reach millions of people. Because I used to care about that. Who wouldn't want to help the world? But if you don't help yourself first, how are you going to help the world? And I had to learn through my experiences, and I chose to learn through my experiences of the failures and the things that did not make me happy and the scary things in my life, that I can be okay, that I can get through them. And no matter what anybody else says, if I believe in my heart something is right, it will be, even if just for that moment. I am getting better every day. And it is forever that we will forever learn. That's why we are creatures who will live forever. We are light beings. Whether you want to think that's hocus pocus or crazy or anything, we're made of atoms. Atoms are made of energy. Energy is made of light. Light cannot disappear. So if you've decided to come down to this 3-dimensional / 4-dimensional plane of existence to experience this level of reality where you need a capsule for your soul, learn something from it. Experience life. Just imagine how silly it would be if you're sitting there watching somebody else play a video game, or listening to somebody else telling you about how a video game was. Some are going to like it, some are going to hate it. Some are going to keep playing it, some may never play it again. Some might think, it's okay. But wouldn't it be better if you got to play it yourself and experience it yourself? You ever have a game that you hated and you put it away, and then maybe a decade later when you're cleaning out some of your trash or you're doing whatever, you would find it again and you're like, oh, let me pop this in, and you end up liking it. Things will always change, and that's okay. If you're spending your whole life trying to convince everybody you're fine, you're really trying to convince yourself. And that's why I will always be humble on this channel. There are my good days and there are bad days. There are days where during this 3 months and counting that I've been depressed and angry. And there are days where I'm very positive about the outlook of the future. So your life will change all the time. Just because you take a better path does not mean that path may not have bumps in the road or dead ends, or you take a wrong turn. Just get back on the road. You are whatever you want to be, including something that somebody else said you are, or you aren't. How does anyone else know you better than you? Unless you choose to not listen to yourself. You can lie to the world. You can even lie to yourself. But you can't lie to truth. You can't lie to your heart. Your heart will always know. So follow your heart. Don't be like Toucan Sam. For some of you older people, you'll know who that is. And follow your nose. Follow your heart. And know that it's from moment to moment. And something you loved could be now something you hate. And that's okay. If you loved it for that moment, live for that moment and appreciate it for what it was. That's why things end. It's because you can't appreciate something that lasts forever. If you were on that roller coaster and it kept spinning forever and ever, you'd get pretty sick of it. I don't care how much you loved it. But just because the ride ended does not mean it's gone forever, that you can't get back on it if you choose to. That is the secret of life. The secret of life is you think you're on this roller coaster, and once that roller coaster stops, the ride is over forever. It doesn't disappear. So you cling on to that roller coaster and you go around and around, even if it gets boring and mundane and routine, and there's no surprises anymore because you've been on the ride 5,000 times. But you don't want to get off because you think once you do, the amusement park disappears. When you die, your capsule expires. Your soul rises up and lives on. And it goes where you choose it to go because you are consciousness. And free will allows you to go back to source, whatever you believe that to be, or become whatever you want to experience whatever you want. But like the old expression is, and says, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. You want to experience love? Sometimes you have to have love ripped away from you. And it's going to be painful. But you'll now know what love is. You want to learn to be brave? Well, don't be surprised if you have many people attacking you. You have many scary moments in your life. Because how are you going to learn to be brave if you don't have anything to be brave to? So if you want to learn lessons, you're going to learn them. But they're most of the time going to be the opposite of what you expect. And if you sit there saying, woe is me, then you have to ask yourself, if this approached me because everything that approaches my life is trying to teach me something, which means I made it happen even on a subconscious level, why am I feeling bad or ignoring the very lesson I wanted to learn in the first place? You ever notice the most caring people in the world are the most caring because they probably had a very horrible, abusive, or negative life? Some commit suicide, which is something I highly recommend you do not do. Some feel bad or get into alcoholism or narcotics and live their life drugged up. And some learn, well, I don't want to experience that ever again, and if I do it to somebody else, I am no better than the person who did it to me, and if you can learn from it, then was it bad? And Cactus says, well, he's asking Brother John, what's your opinion of silver? Well, it could protect your wealth. If you're doing it to get rich, you're going to be very disappointed. But if you're doing it to protect your wealth because you're putting your money into something that one day you could turn around and sell and get your money back, let's put it this way. If you put $100 in silver and another person puts $100 in beer and drinks that beer, how much of that $100 are they getting back? So if you buy the $100 of silver, even if it drops 50%, you're getting back $50. $50 is a lot better than zero. So silver will be whatever you want it to be. And that's the same with anything in life. So if you appreciate these kind of videos, just know that even though my channel gets ghost banned, and even though after this hardly anybody's going to see it, and out of 47,000 subscribers, a 1/16% will ever even know it's there, even if they hit the notification button. Because I have people that saw my last video and said they haven't seen a post from me since 2014. You're here. Be proud that you got here. Because with all the hurdles in your life, if this resonated with you, just imagine all the things you had to go through just to hear this. So again, even though I'm going through the situations that I'm going through, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel right now, doesn't mean there won't be. And that's why I'm posting in the chat that if you'd like to donate to my channel, you can click on that link. If you want to check out my Oregon store, where I sell Oregon pyramids or organic products, or even some of my comic books, check the links. Because that will help support my channel, and it shows there's always a way. If you don't get out of bed, you'll never live life. So if you feel sorry for yourself and you're crying in bed all the time, is that helping you improve? So you have to ask yourself, if you are not willing to get out of bed, why is it you are so afraid of moving on? What is it that you're clinging to? Does the woe is me bring you people that give you compassion? Does that make you feel better when somebody says and pats you on the back, everything's going to be okay? You are never stuck, no matter what anybody else says or believes. That's why it is irrelevant if somebody leaves a comment and they are nasty and abusive or just don't agree. I used to let that bother me. Not anymore. That's how you learn. Somebody else is allowed to have an opinion, but I don't have to allow that opinion to affect mine unless I want it to. So please give this a thumbs up before you leave. Leave a comment. Please share it, because it's not going to get out there without your help. And I'll make some more videos when I feel the opportunity. So I hope you enjoyed this. And even if you don't click on the links, if you can share them, it will help me out during these times, and it is greatly appreciated. And I want to thank the 20 people that are watching, and I hope you learned something from it. So to all of you out there, thanks for taking the time. Be safe out there, and I'll see you next video. I'm going to click on this texture map failed, and you'll watch it disappear.